They surveyed Earth's warship and instantly knew they were doomed. Part 1. First contact. The stars looked like tiny diamonds against the black emptiness of space. The alien ship moved slowly through this darkness. It was the scout vessel Harbinger, pride of the Veridon collective fleet. The ship looked like a giant metal insect with long arms stretching out from its center. Commander Zek Thule stood on the bridge of his ship. His green skin shimmered under the soft lights. He had 4 arms and a head that reminded humans of a praying mantis. 2 of his arms were folded across his chest, while the other 2 worked the controls of his command station. "Status report," Zek Thule said to his crew. "We have entered the outer region of the system, Commander," said Navigator Pelnak. "The 3rd planet shows signs of civilization. Primitive space stations orbit their world and their moon." Zek Thule made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. This was familiar work for him. The Veridon collective had conquered 27 worlds in the last century alone. Their method was always the same: find developing worlds, test their defenses, and if they were weak enough, add them to the collective. "Begin standard survey procedures," ordered Zek Thule. "I want to know their level of technology, military strength, and resource value." Science Officer Clamore bowed slightly. "At once, Commander." On the viewing screen they could see the blue-green planet growing larger as they approached. Tiny lights sparkled on its dark side, the cities of Earth. "Interesting," said Clamore, as he studied his screens. "They call themselves humans. They appear to have achieved space travel only within their own solar system. Primitive fusion technology, no sign of faster-than-light capabilities." Zek Thule felt pleased. Another easy conquest for the glory of the collective. "We have detected a ship leaving the orbit of their moon," reported Security Chief Darvex suddenly. "It appears to be moving to intercept us." Zek Thule straightened his tall body. "Show me this vessel." The screen changed to show a sleek metal ship. It had a long central body with 2 engine sections extending from the rear. Small bumps along its hull suggested weapon ports, but nothing that concerned the Veridon commander. "Pathetic," he said, with a dismissive wave of his upper right hand. "They send one ship to meet us?" "Commander," said Communications Officer Trell Ricks. "The Earth vessel is transmitting a message, audio and visual." "Let us see these humans," ordered Zek Thule. The screen changed again. Now it showed the inside of the human ship. A man with short gray hair sat in a central chair. He wore a dark blue uniform with small metal pins on the collar. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the United States spaceship Dauntless," the human said. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our solar system. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Zek Thule studied the human with interest. The creature looked soft with no natural armor or claws. Its ship, while clean and orderly, showed no signs of advanced technology. "I am Commander Zek Thule of the Veridon Collective," he replied. "We are explorers and traders seeking contact with new species." This was the standard lie. The humans would learn the truth soon enough. On the bridge of the USS Dauntless, Captain Frank Miller turned to his crew after the alien's message ended. "What do you make of them, Lieutenant Harris?" he asked his tactical officer. Donna Harris studied her screens carefully. She was a woman in her 30s with short brown hair and serious eyes. "Their ship is heavily armed, Captain. I detect multiple weapon systems all powered up and ready." Miller nodded. "So much for being peaceful traders." He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were making history today, the first humans to make contact with an alien species. But Miller felt no excitement, only concern. His orders from Earth Command had been clear: assess the aliens' intentions while revealing as little as possible about Earth's true capabilities. "Susan, keep the translation program running. I want to understand everything they say to each other, if possible," he told his communications officer. Susan Clark nodded, her fingers moving quickly across her console. "Working on it, Captain. Their language is complex, but the AI is making progress." In the engine room of the Dauntless, Chief Engineer Alan Webb checked the status of the ship's power systems. On the surface, the Dauntless appeared to use standard fusion engines, technology that Earth had mastered decades ago. But hidden beneath layers of shielding was the ship's true heart, a quantum vacuum energy tap that drew power from the fabric of space itself. "How are we doing, Alan?" asked the captain through the communication system. "All systems nominal, Captain," Webb replied. "Our conventional systems are showing exactly what we want them to see. The QV drive is masked and ready, if we need it." Back on the Harbinger, Science Officer Clawmore began the standard scanning procedure. Beams of invisible energy swept across the human vessel. "Their hull is composed of common metals, titanium alloys primarily," reported Clawmore. "I detect standard fusion reactors providing power, minimal shield technology. Their weapons appear to be primitive projectile launchers and low-energy laser systems." Zekthul felt increasingly confident. "And their communications? Radio waves and simple data transmissions," said Communications Officer Trellrix. "Nothing remarkable." "Excellent," said Zekthul. "Begin the next phase of scanning. I want to know everything about their vessel before we decide how to proceed." On the Dauntless, alarms began to sound as the more invasive alien scans hit the ship. "They're using deep penetrating scans now, Captain," reported Lieutenant Harris. "Our outer hull sensors are picking it up." Captain Miller's face remained calm, but inside he felt tension building. This was the moment of truth. Would Earth's deception hold? "Let them look," he said quietly. For now, the Dauntless had been built with layers of technology, like an onion. The outer layers were deliberately primitive, technology that matched what the aliens would expect from a species just beginning to explore their own solar system. But deeper inside were systems that Earth had kept secret for generations. After the first confirmed detection of alien radio signals 50 years ago, Earth's nations had made a collective decision. They would present themselves to the galaxy as a developing civilization, while secretly preparing for the possibility that not all alien life would be friendly. Now that decision was being put to the test. "Captain, they're hailing us again," said Susan Clark. "On screen," ordered Miller. The insect-like face of Commander Zekthul appeared again. "Captain Miller, we would like to send a delegation to your vessel, a cultural exchange between our peoples." Miller knew this was no friendly request. The aliens wanted to board his ship and assess it, and its crew, for weaknesses. "I'm afraid that won't be possible at this time, Commander," Miller replied smoothly. "Our protocols for first contact require a quarantine period. Perhaps after our scientists have confirmed biological compatibility, such an exchange would be possible." Zekthul's four eyes narrowed slightly. "I understand, Captain. Then perhaps you would not object to a more thorough scan of your vessel, for scientific purposes only." Before Miller could respond, the alien commander gave a signal to someone, off-screen. Immediately, the Dauntless shuddered as powerful energy beams struck its hull. "Shields holding, Captain," reported Lieutenant Harris. "But these aren't just scanning beams anymore, they're trying to disable us." Captain Miller's expression hardened. "It seems our new friends aren't as peaceful as they claimed. Alert Earth." "Command, tell them First Contact Protocol Delta is now in effect." The real test was about to begin. They surveyed Earth's warship, and instantly knew they were doomed. Part 2. The survey. The alien attack beam struck the Dauntless again. The bridge lights flickered for a moment, then steadied. "Return fire, Lieutenant Harris?" Captain Miller asked, calmly. Lieutenant Donna Harris shook her head. "Not yet, sir. Their beams aren't weapons in the usual sense. They're trying to overload our systems to see how we respond." Miller nodded. He understood the game the aliens were playing. They wanted to test Earth's defenses without starting a full battle. "Let them think they're hurting us," Miller said. "Engineer Webb, make it look good." In the engine room, Alan Webb smiled. "Aye, Captain." He pressed a series of commands into his console. Throughout the ship, lights dimmed and non-essential systems shut down. From the outside, the Dauntless now appeared damaged and vulnerable. The Harbinger, Commander Zekthul watched with satisfaction as the human ship's lights flickered. "Their power systems are failing," reported Clawmore. "Our disruption beams are working as expected." "Excellent," said Zekthul. Continue the scan. I want to know everything about their weapons before we move to capture their vessel. Science. Officer Clawmore directed more scanning beams at the Earthship. The energy patterns dug deeper into the Dauntless, pushing past the outer hull and into the inner systems. Strange, Clawmore muttered as he studied his readings. I'm detecting inconsistencies in their power distribution network. Explain, ordered Zekthul. Their main systems appear to be running on simple fusion power as we thought, said Clawmore. But there are energy pathways that don't connect to anything our scans can detect. It's as if... He paused, adjusting his scanning parameters. It's as if they have hidden systems our beams cannot penetrate. Zekthul moved to look at Clawmore's display. Impossible. Our scanning technology can penetrate any known shielding. Nevertheless, Commander, something is blocking our deeper scans, insisted Clawmore. And there's more. The materials in their inner hull don't match our initial readings. The outer hull is made of expected alloys, but beneath that, back on the Dauntless, Captain Miller watched the alien ship on his view screen. Status of their scanning beams, Lieutenant Harris? They've increased power by 200%, she reported. They're trying to see past our deception layers. Miller pressed a button on his chair. All hands prepare for revelation protocol. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, crew members activated special systems that had remained dormant until now. Hidden panels and walls slid open. Dormant energy conduits hummed to life. In engineering, Alan Webb unlocked a secure console and entered his authorization code. Quantum vacuum tap initializing, Captain. True shields coming online in 3, 2, 1. Deep inside the Dauntless, the ship's real power source activated. Unlike the conventional fusion reactors visible to the aliens, this technology harvested energy directly from quantum fluctuations in empty space. It was technology that humanity had kept secret for decades, waiting for the day they might need it. On the Harbinger, alarms began to sound. "Commander!" Clawmore shouted in surprise. "The human vessel is changing." On his display, the familiar outline of the Dauntless was transforming. Hidden weapon ports were opening along its hull. The engine section glowed with strange blue energy that the Veridon scanners couldn't identify. "What is happening?" demanded Zekthul. "Explain this." "Their power readings are off the scale," Clawmore said, his voice shaking. "They've been concealing their true capabilities. This is not primitive technology." Security Chief Darvex moved quickly to his station. "Raising shields to maximum, charging main weapons." "Hold," ordered Zekthul. "Do not fire unless I command it. This may still be resolved without battle." On the view screen, the human ship now looked completely different. Its hull glowed with subtle patterns of energy. The weapon ports that had opened revealed devices unlike anything the Veridon had encountered before. "They are hailing us," reported Communications Officer Trell Ricks. "On screen," said Zekthul, trying to keep his voice steady. Captain Miller's face appeared, looking much less concerned than before. "Commander Zekthul," said the human captain. "I believe it's time we had an honest conversation. Your scanning attack has forced us to reveal technology we preferred to keep hidden. I hope you understand what this means." Zekthul felt cold fear for the first time in many years. "What are you, humans? No developing species could possess such technology." Miller smiled slightly. "We are exactly what we appear to be, humans from Earth. We simply chose not to reveal our true capabilities to the galaxy until necessary. Your aggressive actions made it necessary." On the Dauntless, Lieutenant Harris monitored the alien ship. "They're powering up weapons, Captain, but they haven't targeted us yet." "Keep our defensive systems at full readiness," ordered Miller, "but hold fire unless they attack first." Communications Officer Susan Clark worked at her station. "Captain, I finished translating some of their internal communications. They belong to something called the Veridon Collective. From what I can tell, they routinely conquer less advanced worlds." Miller nodded grimly. "As we suspected, Earth Command was right to implement the deception protocol. The plan had begun 50 years ago, when Earth's deep space listening post had detected signals from advanced civilizations. Rather than announcing themselves to the galaxy, Earth's leaders had made a difficult choice. They would present humanity as a developing, nearly primitive species, while secretly preparing for the possibility of hostility from the stars. The Dauntless represented the pinnacle of that hidden progress, a warship disguised as a simple exploration vessel until threatened on the Harbinger. Commander Zekthul consulted urgently with his officers. Could our scans have been wrong? He asked. Could this be some kind of illusion? Clamor shook his head. No, Commander. The technology is real. In fact, our deeper scans suggest their capabilities exceed our own in several areas. Impossible, hissed Zekthul. The Veridon Collective possesses the most advanced technology in the known galaxy. Not anymore, said Clamor quietly. Zekthul turned back to the view screen where Captain Miller waited patiently. Captain Miller, the alien commander said carefully. There appears to have been a misunderstanding. The Veridon Collective comes in peace. Our scans were merely standard protocol for first contact. Miller's expression remained neutral. Your scans were an attack, Commander. But we're willing to overlook this first misunderstanding. As a show of good faith, we'll power down our active targeting systems if you do the same. Zekthul signaled to Darvex, who reluctantly deactivated their weapon targeting. A wise decision, said Captain Miller. Now let's start again. The people of Earth welcome peaceful contact with the Veridon Collective. But know this, we will defend ourselves if necessary. As he spoke, 3 more Earth ships appeared from behind the moon. Like the Dauntless, they had dropped their disguise, revealing their true nature as advanced warships. Zekthul stared at the screen in disbelief. The Veridon had never encountered a species that had hidden its capabilities so effectively. For the first time in his long career of conquest, the commander felt true uncertainty about what would happen next. The survey of Earth's warship was complete, and the results were nothing like what the Veridon had expected. They had come looking for easy prey and instead found a tiger hiding in sheep's clothing, and this changed everything. They surveyed Earth's warship and instantly knew they were doomed. Part 3. The Revelation Commander Zekthul paced the bridge of the Harbinger. His forearms were clasped tightly behind his back. The situation had changed in ways he never expected. The supposedly primitive humans had revealed technology that matched or even exceeded Veridon capabilities. Send a message to the Collective High Command, Zekthul ordered. We need reinforcements. Communications Officer Trell Ricks looked up from his station. I've been trying, Commander. Something is blocking our long-range transmissions. Zekthul stopped pacing. The humans? Most likely, said Science Officer Clamor. Their ships are generating an energy field that disrupts subspace communications. They're isolating us, Zekthul realized, cutting us off from the collective. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Miller watched the alien ship on his view screen. The other Earth ships had taken positions around the Harbinger, keeping it contained without appearing overtly hostile. Captain, said Susan Clark from her communications station, Earth Command is requesting an update. Miller nodded. Tell them first contact protocols have shifted to level 3. The aliens have revealed hostile intent, but are currently contained. Lieutenant Donna Harris monitored her tactical display. The alien vessel is powering up its engines, Captain. They may be preparing to leave. Let's invite them to stay a little longer, Miller said. He turned to Clark. Open a channel to the Veridon ship. Commander Zekthul's insect-like face appeared on the screen again. Commander, Miller said pleasantly, I notice you're preparing your engines. I hope you're not planning to leave so soon. We have much to discuss. Zekthul's mandibles clicked in what humans would recognize as nervousness. Captain Miller, your deception has been noted. The Veridon Collective will not forget this. Deception? Miller raised an eyebrow. We simply chose not to reveal all our capabilities immediately, just as you chose not to reveal your true intentions. In the engine room of the Dauntless, Alan, Webb carefully monitored the ship's quantum vacuum drive. The technology was stable now, but revealing it so suddenly had put strain on the containment systems. Engine room to bridge, Webb called. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the alien ship. They might be trying to overload their engines. Miller frowned. For what purpose? If I had to guess, Koitu, said Webb. A distress beacon. One powerful enough to reach their fleet despite our communication blocks. Back on the Harbinger, Zek Thul had indeed ordered such a measure. Divert all power to the subspace transmitter, he commanded. We must alert the fleet to the true nature of these humans. Commander, warned Clamor, such power levels could damage our systems permanently. Better damaged than defeated, snapped Zek Thul. The collective must know what we face here. The Harbinger's engines glowed brighter as power was channeled into its communication systems. The ship trembled with the strain. On the Dauntless, alarms sounded. Energy surge from the alien vessel, reported Lieutenant Harris. They're attempting to punch through our communication barrier. Miller made a quick decision. Activate the gravity lens. Contain their transmission. Harris pressed a sequence of commands on her console. Outside the ship, space itself seemed to bend slightly around the Dauntless. It was subtle, not the dramatic distortion of science fiction stories, but effective. The gravity lens captured and redirected the alien's transmission energy, preventing it from reaching deep space. On the Harbinger, systems began to fail as the overloaded engines shut down. Transmission failed, reported Trellrix with dismay. The human ship somehow captured our signal. Zek Thul slammed a fist on his command chair. How? How is this possible? No species should have this level of technology without us knowing. Clamor studied his screens, which showed the strange distortion around the Earth ships. They appear to have mastered localized gravity control, Commander. They're bending space itself to block our transmission. That technology is theoretical even. For the collective, Zek Thul said quietly. For the first time, the commander felt true fear. The Veridon Collective had spent centuries ensuring they were the most advanced power in their region of the galaxy. They systematically identified and conquered or destroyed any civilization that might one day challenge them. It was their way of maintaining dominance. But somehow, they had missed Earth. Or rather, they had seen what the humans wanted them to see. A young species just beginning to reach for the stars. Captain Miller watched the alien ship's power levels drop on his display. They've burned out their engines, reported Harris. They're essentially dead in space now. Miller nodded. Open a channel. When Zek Thul's face appeared on screen again, Miller spoke calmly. Commander, your ship appears to be experiencing difficulties. We'd be happy to offer assistance. The alien commander's eyes narrowed. You offer help to those you have disabled? You disabled yourselves, Miller pointed out. We merely prevented your distress call from reaching its destination. Miller leaned forward in his chair. Let me be direct, Commander. We know the Veridon Collective's standard procedure is to identify developing civilizations and conquer them before they become threats. Earth has been aware of your activities for some time. Zek Thul's mandibles clicked rapidly in surprise. Impossible. We have never encountered your kind before. Not directly, agreed Miller. But we've observed your conquests from afar. 50 years ago, our deep space telescopes witnessed the fall of the Altair system. We watched as your fleet destroyed a civilization that refused to submit. Zek Thul remained silent. The conquest of Altair had indeed happened, just as the human described. Miller continued. After that, Earth made a decision. We would hide our true progress until we understood the galaxy better. We presented ourselves as a developing species while secretly preparing for the day we might meet the Veridon Collective, or others like you. On the Harbinger, Clamor approached his commander. The human speaks the truth, he said quietly. Our preliminary scans of their planet showed expected development patterns for a young species. But now I'm detecting energy signatures from hidden installations across their solar system. They've been concealing their technology everywhere, not just on their ships. Zek Thul felt the situation slipping further from his control. The humans had not only deceived them about their military capabilities, but had apparently been watching and studying the collective for decades. What do you want, Captain Miller? Zek Thul finally asked. First, I want you to understand your situation, Miller replied. Your ship is disabled. Your communications are blocked. The collective fleet has no idea where you are or what you've discovered. Miller's expression remained calm, but his words carried weight. Second, I want you to know that Earth has no interest in conquest. Unlike the Veridon, we don't believe advancement gives us the right to dominate others. Zekthul considered his options carefully. The humans could destroy his ship if they wished. The fact that they hadn't done so already suggested they had other plans. What do you propose? He asked. A new relationship, said Miller. One based on mutual respect rather than dominance. The Veridon Collective will need to adjust its policies regarding other civilizations. Zekthul almost laughed. And if we refuse? Miller didn't answer directly. Instead, he nodded to Susan Clark, who pressed a button on her console. On the Harbinger's main screen, a new image appeared. It showed dozens of Earth ships emerging from hidden bases on moons and asteroids throughout the solar system. All were as advanced as the Dauntless, and all had their weapons trained on the Harbinger. The message was clear. The Veridon scout had surveyed Earth's warship, and now they knew they were doomed if they chose conflict. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to change forever. They surveyed Earth's warship and instantly knew they were doomed. Part 4. The Deception. Revealed Commander Zekthul stared at the screen showing dozens of advanced Earth ships surrounding his vessel. His mandibles clicked slowly as he processed this new reality. The Veridon Collective had never faced such a situation before. Your hidden fleet is impressive, Captain Miller, Zekthul said carefully. But the Collective still has many more ships than your Earth does. Miller nodded. Perhaps, but we've been preparing for this moment for decades. And there's something else you should see. Miller nodded to Lieutenant Harris, who pressed another sequence on her console. On the Harbinger's screen, a new image appeared. It showed a massive structure orbiting far beyond the planet humans called Neptune. The structure was clearly a shipyard with dozens of vessels under construction. This is just one of our building facilities, Miller explained. We have 7 more throughout the solar system. Zekthul felt his forearms go limp with shock. The scale of human deception was beyond anything he had imagined. Not only had they hidden their current capabilities, but they were rapidly building a fleet that could challenge the entire collective. How? He finally asked. How did you advance so quickly without the collective knowing? Miller's expression remained calm. Earth was fortunate in 2 ways, Commander. First, we detected your activities before you detected us. This gave us time to prepare. Second, humans are very good at keeping secrets even from each other. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Susan Clark continued monitoring communications from the alien vessel. Captain, she reported, I'm picking up internal communications from their ship. Their science officer Clamor is reviewing historical data. About Earth, Miller nodded. They're trying to understand how they missed our development. He turned back to the screen where Zekthul waited. Perhaps I can help with that, Commander. The Earth captain pressed a button on his chair. A historical timeline appeared beside his image on the screen. 50 years ago, when we first detected signals from Veridon ships, the nations of Earth were divided and competitive, Miller explained. We had just begun basic space exploration of our own solar system. Our technology was primitive compared to what we have now. The timeline showed images of Earth's early spacecraft, simple capsules and small space stations. But the discovery of your activities in nearby star systems changed everything, Miller continued. Earth's leaders realized that we faced a potential threat, unlike anything in our history. For the first time, all nations united with a single purpose to prepare for possible contact with the Veridon Collective. Zekthul watched as the timeline showed the rapid but hidden development of Earth technology. While presenting a face of slow progress to the stars, Earth scientists had made breakthrough after breakthrough in secret underground and underwater facilities. We maintained a careful facade, Miller said. The space stations and ships we allowed to be seen used only basic technology. Meanwhile, our real advancements remained hidden. On the Harbinger, Science Officer Clamor approached his commander. He speaks the truth, Clamor said quietly. I've analyzed their planet's energy usage patterns over the last 50 years. The visible power consumption matches what we would expect from a developing civilization. but there are unexplained gaps that suggest hidden power sources and facilities. Commander Zekthul turned to his science officer. How did our long-range scouts miss this? Because the humans deliberately showed us what we expected to see, Clamor replied. Our scouts detected primitive radio signals, basic rocket technology, and early space stations, exactly what a young species should have. We saw no reason to investigate further. A deception that spans an entire planet, Zekthul said with a mixture of anger and reluctant admiration. No species has ever done such a thing before. Back on the Dauntless, Alan Webb reported from engineering. Captain, we're detecting unusual energy patterns from the alien ship. They might be trying to activate some kind of emergency system. Miller frowned. Lieutenant Harris, any weapons powering up? Harris checked her screens. No weapons, sir, but there's an energy buildup in what appears to be a small, shielded compartment near their engine room. Self-destruct? Miller wondered. Unlikely, replied Harris. The energy signature is too small. It could be some kind of beacon or recording device. Miller made a quick decision. Target that compartment with a focused EMP pulse. Disable it without harming their main systems. Harris nodded and carried out the order. A brief, invisible pulse of energy shot from the Dauntless to a specific section of the alien vessel. On the Harbinger, alarms sounded as a key system went offline. The emergency transmitter has failed, reported Security Chief Darvex with dismay. The humans targeted. It precisely, Zekthul's anger grew. They knew exactly where it was and what it did. They've been studying us, said Clamor, just as we study other species before conquest. Zekthul turned back to the view screen where Captain Miller waited patiently. You've left us no options. Human. On the contrary, Commander, Miller replied. I'm offering you several options. They simply aren't the ones you're used to having. Miller leaned forward in his chair. Option 1. We destroy your vessel and ensure no word of Earth's true capabilities reaches the collective until we're ready to reveal ourselves on our terms. Zekthul's eyes narrowed. And option 2? You return to the collective as our ambassador, said Miller. You inform your leaders that Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations. You explain that we have no interest in conquest but will defend ourselves if threatened. You would trust me with such a mission? Zekthul asked suspiciously. Miller smiled slightly. We would provide you with evidence of our capabilities, enough to convince your leaders that conflict with Earth would be costly for both sides. On the Harbinger, Clamor moved closer to his commander. The human offer is logical, he said quietly. The collective has never encountered a species with this level of technology and deception. The High Command will want to reassess. Zekthul considered his options carefully. Centuries of Veridon dominance had created a culture that viewed other species as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited. But the humans had changed that equation. They had hidden their development until they were strong, enough to challenge the collective. There would be a third option in our culture, Zekthul said finally, to recognize worthy adversaries and offer them a place within the collective as equals, not subjects. Miller nodded. An interesting proposal. But Earth values its independence. We seek allies, not membership in a collective. Then perhaps it is the collective that must change, said Zekthul, surprising even himself with the thought. For the first time in the long history of the Veridon collective, they had encountered a species that had completely outmaneuvered them. The humans had studied Veridon tactics, prepared for them, and revealed themselves only when they were ready. The implications were enormous, and Zekthul knew it. The age of easy Veridon conquest might be ending, and it had begun with one Earth warship that had changed everything. They surveyed Earth's warship and instantly knew they were doomed. Part 5. The Reckoning. 3 days had passed since the first contact between the Dauntless and the Harbinger. The alien ship now orbited Earth alongside the human vessels, its damaged engines partially repaired by Earth engineers. Commander Zekthul stood at a window in the Dauntless, looking down at the blue-green planet below. Your world is beautiful, he said to Captain Miller, who stood beside him. We have seen many planets in our explorations, but few with such vibrant colors. Miller nodded. Earth is special to us. It's why we've worked so hard to protect it. The Earth captain had invited the alien commander aboard the Dauntless for a final meeting before the Harbinger would be allowed to return to Veridon space. It was a gesture of trust, but also an opportunity to show the alien more of Earth's true capabilities. Come, said Miller. There's something I want you to see before you depart. The two leaders walked through the corridors of the Dauntless. Human crew members nodded respectfully as they passed, showing no fear of the insect-like alien. Zekathul noticed this with interest. In Veridon culture, different species were always kept separate, with clear hierarchies of dominance. They entered a large chamber that Zekathul hadn't seen before. In the center was a round table with a holographic display showing the Milky Way galaxy. This is our strategic command center, Miller explained. From here, we monitor activities throughout our region of space. Zekathul studied the display with growing concern. Small lights indicated the positions of Veridon fleets and colonies, information the collective considered highly classified. How did you acquire this data? He asked. Miller smiled slightly. We've had observer probes in neighboring star systems for decades. Small, stealthy devices that watch and listen without being detected. The display changed to show the path of one such probe. It had traveled through 3 Veridon-controlled systems, gathering information before returning to Earth space. You've been spying on us for years, Zekathul realized. We prefer the term strategic observation, Miller replied. Just as your collective observes species before deciding whether to conquer them. Zekathul couldn't argue with that logic. The Veridon had built their empire on careful information gathering before taking action. But that's not why I brought you here, Miller continued. He pressed a control, and the display changed again. Now it showed dozens of routes connecting Earth to other star systems. These are the paths our ships have taken over the last 20 years, Miller explained. While maintaining our facade of being a primitive species, we've secretly explored over 40 nearby systems. Zekathul's 4 eyes widened. Without faster-than-light travel? Impossible. Miller shook his head. Not impossible. Just another deception. The display zoomed in on one of Earth's hidden shipyards. It showed a vessel unlike any Zekathul had seen before, sleeker than human ships, with strange projections along its hull. This is the Pathfinder, said Miller. Our first, successful FTL vessel, built 15 years ago. Since then, we've constructed a fleet of explorer ships that use similar technology. Zekathul felt his mandibles click with shock. You've had faster-than-light capability for 15 years, without the collective detecting it? Our method doesn't create the subspace distortions your ships do, Miller explained. Instead of pushing through space, our vessels create temporary tunnels between points, what our scientists call Einstein-Rosen bridges. Wormholes, Zekathul said quietly. The collective has theoretical models for such technology, but we've never made it work practically. Miller nodded. It has limitations. The tunnels collapse quickly, and creating them requires enormous energy, but it allowed us to explore discreetly. The display changed again, showing a map of explored systems. Small dots indicated planets with native life forms. We found 17 inhabited worlds within 100 light-years, Miller said. 7 have intelligent species developing their own civilizations. 3 are close to achieving spaceflight. Zekathul studied the map carefully, and these would be targets for the collective under our standard protocols. Yes, Miller agreed, which brings us to the real purpose of this meeting. The Earth captain turned to face the alien commander directly. We're prepared to allow you to return to the collective with knowledge of Earth's true capabilities. But we have conditions. Zekathul had expected this. What conditions? First, the collective must agree to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, Miller said. Second, you must agree to a non-aggression pact covering not just Earth but the 17 systems we've identified with developing life. Zekathul considered this. The High Command will resist such terms. Expansion through conquest has been our way for generations. Then it's time for change, Miller said firmly. Earth is offering the collective a choice between a costly conflict or a new relationship based on mutual respect. Miller pressed another control on the table. The display now showed simulation data for a conflict between Earth and the Veridon collective. Our analysts predict that open war between our civilizations would result in massive casualties on both sides, Miller explained. Even if the collective eventually prevailed through superior numbers, the cost would be devastating. Sekthul watched the simulation with growing unease. The humans had indeed studied Veridon tactics thoroughly and developed effective countermeasures. There is another factor to consider, Miller added. In your culture, the strong dominate the weak. By your own standards, a species that can deceive and outmaneuver you as we have deserves respect. Sekthul felt the weight of this moment. His report to the collective would shape relations between two powerful civilizations. The easy path would be to recommend conquest, the traditional Veridon response to any potential rival. But that path now promised only destruction. I will take your terms to the High Command, Sekthul said finally. I cannot guarantee they will be accepted, but I will advocate for them. That's all we ask, Miller replied. A chance for a different future. Later that day, Sekthul prepared to return to his ship. Before leaving, he asked one final question that had been troubling him. Captain Miller, why reveal yourselves now? You could have maintained your deception longer, built more ships, become even stronger. Miller smiled. Because not all humans agreed with the deception strategy. Many believed we should openly join the galactic community. Your arrival forced a decision. He looked out at the stars visible through a nearby window. Humans are explorers at heart, Commander. We can't hide forever, nor do we want to. We hope to meet other species as equals and friends, not as conquerors or the conquered. Sekthul considered this strange concept. In all the collective's history, they had never encountered a species that could have dominated others but chose not to. Perhaps, Sekthul said thoughtfully, there is something the collective can learn from humans after all. As the alien commander boarded his ship and prepared for the journey home, he knew the galaxy would never be the same. The Veridon had surveyed Earth's warship, and in doing so, they had discovered not just advanced technology, but a different way of thinking about power and relationships between species. The question now was whether the collective could adapt to this new reality, or if they would cling to old ways and face the consequences. Either way, the age of unchallenged Veridon dominance was over, and it had ended not with a great battle, but with a clever deception by a species that had hidden in plain sight until they were ready to be seen. The stars would bear witness to what happened next.